Hey guys, this is John, and I'm playing Crapablanca in the 5-minute pool on ICC. Crapablanca is I think, two-time opponent on this channel. This is our third meeting, and he's a very good opponent, very tricky and fast, and I'm going to try to play as quickly as I can to match him on the clock because he is just a beast as far as time management goes. I really have a tough time keeping up with him. So let's go knight f6. We are playing a King's Indian now, which I haven't really ever played, hardly. But, you know, you gotta push yourself. You gotta try new stuff, even in the face of adversity. I'll go knight a6. And I think I'll go knight back to d7 to try to angle for the c5 square. Yeah, and he's playing to control the consequences of my f5 push. Let's bring this knight here. I think this is just useful. Usually he plays some sort of system, well, at least in the past two times, he's played a system that is offbeat, so he's choosing a more theoretical line this time around. Okay, I feel like f5 is definitely crucial. I kind of want to get my king out of the way, though. Like king h8 in preparation for f5, because if he takes with the g-pawn, and I take back with my g-pawn, the file will certainly become open. Okay, I gotta go for f5 now. And I'm really trying to be conscious about not falling too far behind on the clock. He can take on c5 now and have to take with my pawn and mess up my structure a little bit. It is nice that my knight covers h5, so his queen can't make an appearance there right now. Maybe f4 in this position. Maybe h6 is another option. If h6, probably knight e6. I take with my bishop, he takes with the d-pawn. Maybe f4 then to keep the position closed. Could do that. Yeah, let's play this. I'd like this knight to move. I don't like it hanging over my head like this. He does do that. And I think f4 is a good move. Just checking to see if f takes e4 is worth consideration as well. F takes e4, he takes with the knight. I take, he takes with the bishop. Maybe queen f6 is decent then. Tough to say. If f4 instead, knight d5, he might trade knights and then bring his queen to g4. Could be an issue. What about queen d4 right now? That's interesting too. Lots to think about. Queen d4. I'm actually liking queen d4 the best out of all these moves I just looked at. Let's try that. This looks highly interesting. It attacks the knight, and I'm trying to take on e4 at a more opportune time. He has knight e2. But knight e2, I just go back to d6, and I'm controlling the advance of the pawn. If he takes on f5, I have e4. Or do I want to pin him first? No, let's go e4. Bishop c2 and queen e5, I'm thinking. I don't want to trade queens. I'd rather attack the f5 pawn. And if I can win that, I can win e6. His king is caught in the middle. That was one consequence of the way he's played. Okay, so if I take here... I think it's alright to nab this pawn. Is he going to go knight f4? I think he can do knight f4 anyways, regardless of what I play, so yeah, this seems alright. So knight g6 check is a threat. If I go rook fd8, how will he play? Probably queen e3? Rook fd8, queen e3, maybe rook d4. It's wild. He can transfer his queen over to g3. Yeah, that queen to e3 move is very annoying. Okay, we're going to do this, though. I feel like this is the correct move. It just reinforces e4. But queen here, definitely annoying. I'm thinking I almost might have to play queen g5 sooner or later. Because if rook g8, e7... Okay, I'm going to go queen g5. And if we take twice on g5. I'm thinking bishop h6. Doesn't want to go for that line. Okay, interesting. I'm going to go back here.
Check.
Knight in. Okay. This guy plays with reckless abandon. I mean, he makes good moves too, but it's just the speed at which he plays is really astounding. What to do now? Rook g8, knight d7 maybe. That's bad for us. Queen takes e6. Is there a refutation of this move? I don't see it.
Check.
Oh, that's the refutation. Yeah. Rook takes f8, queen takes g7, checkmate. Okay, resign. Yeah. Well, it was interesting to try out this line. Usually I play c5 here, but I kind of played d6 on instinct and then found myself in a King's Indian. So I just tried to go with it. Let's take a look. Yeah, I haven't figured this guy out. I can't crack the crapablanca code. So d6. Yeah, c5 leads to non-Peartz setups. In fact, they can more resemble a Benoni after d5, c5. Or c5, d5, I mean. So d6, knight c3, knight f6, knight f3, castle, h3. So we're playing an h3 King's Indian. A favorite of Conrad Holt, Grandmaster Conrad Holt, who's playing the U.S. Championship right now. Bishop e3. I've thought about playing this line from the white side, but never pulled the trigger on that. So I brought this knight to c5. That was the point of knight d7. So knight d7 intended to maneuver one knight to c5 and also free up for f5. Let's start the engine right here. So rook g1, knight dc5, b3. This b3 move's a little mysterious. The engine liked it for a split second. In the context of eventually trying to kick this knight out of c5, b3 definitely makes sense. Because typical idea here would be to try to prepare b4, right? So the problem is if he plays a3 to start, trying for b4 soon, I can clamp on the b3 square with a4 myself. So often you'll want to take baby steps here if you're white and play b3 and then a3 and then b4, just so that a4 can always be met by b4 and you bypass the clamp. So to an extent that makes sense. I'm just kind of surprised he played it right now. The computer suggests moving my knight back to a6. I would never ever play that. If I played knight a6 here, you could fully accuse me of using an engine, because that is an inhuman move. So king h8, I'm trying to play f5. Rook b1. And I went for this, but it didn't turn out so well. Take, take. It was like my king turned out to be more exposed than his. Knight f6. I mean, this is all a standard King's Indian idea. Basically, like move the knight away from f6, play f5, bring the knight back to f6 to pressure e4. It does allow him to take on c5. Knight e6. Okay, he played bishop d3 first, actually. Played h6. Maybe h6 is the culprit. The engine hates that move. It suggests queen e8 instead, which reinforces e6. And maybe in some cases queen h5 if his queen ever vacates its current diagonal. I just didn't like this knight on g5. I didn't want it to sit there indefinitely. I see the value of queen e8 though. And if he takes, I assume I play e4. And I open lines and I threaten bishop takes f5. King's Indian's a very dynamic opening. Many of you know that, but I'm not sure I, as a chess player, have like quite the right temperament to play it, because I generally prefer structures where I can have like a solid positional basis to fall back on, and I feel like the King's Indian for black kind of lacks that. And that's why it's at the top level regarded as a little bit suspicious, I believe. It's that if things go wrong in a King's Indian for black, like you often don't have a leg to stand on, your position just kind of falls apart. Whereas you can't say the same thing about like a Slav, for instance. If things are wrong in a Slav for black, they just have a passive but playable position. So this happened. I played queen d4. Yeah, I was very hyped about this move, but it's probably not so good. Ah, knight b5. Yeah, I didn't see that at all. That would force my queen back to d8, wouldn't it? All the way back to d8. So he did knight e2, which also turned out well. Yeah, queen d4 was optimistic. Let's put it that way. I should have gone with my original instinct, f4, huh? Well, I was worried that he'd go knight d5, and despite the presence of opposite color bishops, I thought that his queen might come to g4 after the knights are exchanged, either me taking on d5 or him taking on f6. Probably I want to let him take on f6. Rook e8. I guess this is fine, though. And actually, I'm hunting down the e6 pawn. So f4 would have been stronger. Then he took on f5. I played for activity, e4. I'm sure I don't have enough for the pawn, though. Trading queens would not be in my best interest. I want to play dynamically if I want to have a chance at shaking this structure, this mini structure, f5, e6. Queen d2. I took, yeah, knight f4. He just whipped that move off 1 second. He had that at the ready. Rook here. Yeah. Knight g6 is a threat. I kind of sensed my position was not good now. In a sense, rook fd8 is forcing him to get his queen involved, but what else do I do? I was considering king h7, but putting your king on the same diagonal as this bishop lurking on c2 is unappetizing. So rook fd8, queen e3, rook d4. This move looks nice, but yeah, I'm still suffering after queen g3. Knight e8 is the best move to hold g7. Ugh, also ugly. Knight retreat to the last rank. And you can see he's in the +2 territory now. It's very tough for black. Yeah. This opponent, I think this is someone fairly good. I mean, I would be pretty surprised if they were untitled.
Check.
I know I speculate as to people's identities a lot on this channel, but it's just hard to like not to, because you notice the way someone's played, and I played 3 games against this guy. Like, if this guy's untitled, I would be honestly pretty shocked. So, yeah, and now I blundered into mate, but bad position. I need to defend my bishop. So knight h5 or knight e8, both of which are unappetizing.
Check.
Yeah, knight f8 was nice. I wasn't looking at that knight move. I was looking at virtually every other knight move. So I saw, like, if knight f4, I have queen d7, and I can defend along the 7th rank. You know, knight h4, same thing. But knight f8 check. Escaped my attention. So, a rather nice game by Crapablanca. I think in this move order, with white just adopting this array of pawns on the 4th rank, I'll probably play c5 in the future. I don't think I'll go into d6 territory again, unless I'm willing to play it more like a pure modern, maybe even like a hippo setup. I don't think the transposition into the King's Indian is quite my style. So, all right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this game, and I'll be back tomorrow with another Blitz game. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.